Hello again. I just wanted to read through a statement I sent to the legal department of Northumbria Police last night. Um, it concerns the coordinated coercion that I've been experiencing for quite some time and have referenced many times on this channel. And it culminated in the police state terror my wife and I suffered in November 2025. To the legal department of Northumbria Police. I'm writing in respect to my arrest and the seizure of devices from my property on the 19th of November 2025. This exercise was led by Adam Lloyd, 1812. Part of the justification of this action was a false pretext of criminal damage, of which no credible evidence exists. It was alleged that 9 and 10 months prior to my arrest, I damaged a car associated with Rachel Hudson. This false pretext, supported by no credible evidence, was used not only to seize devices from my property, but to conduct a search for over 2 hours, purportedly for spray paint. When entering my property, Lloyd did not provide appropriate details justifying the arrest, the allegations, nor the accuser. Further, he was unnecessarily aggressive. I was not permitted to put on my own shoes, was dragged from the property when I asked my wife to turn off a work device that I do not own. An officer pushed past my wife without quoting to her the legislation justifying his actions. When I was dragged from the property, my wife was visibly terrified and I was subject to inhumane treatment when the search was conducted. So my wife was terrorized and she was subject to inhumane treatment when the search was conducted. She was given conflicting information regarding the search for spray paint and the need for passwords for seized devices. At the end of this ordeal and inhumane treatment, my wife was asked, under duress, to sign a disclaimer regarding damage and potential theft. In the meantime, I was assaulted by Lloyd in the back of his car when he used the pretext of applying a seatbelt to squeeze my arm. This resulted in bruising and muscle pain. I also sustained an injury to my forearm owing to cuffs which were too tight. For this, I was refused a cold compress to ease pain, and it was necessary for me to self-administer first aid in the cell with intermittent tepid water. Combined, the conduct of Northumbria Police amounted to police state terror. As a person born in the UK, I am deeply ashamed of the way my wife and daughter have been treated as Polish citizens. During my interview, two aspects became abundantly clear. First, the allegation of criminal damage was false and mendacious. Second, this was part of an ongoing campaign of coordinated coercion involving the FCA, Rachel Hudson, and South Tyneside Council. I had previously raised the issue with the FCA and South Tyneside Council. In the case of the latter, this was put to Deirdre Ryan in an online meeting. She did not deny it. This left only Rachel Hudson. Combined, this relates to the financial sector. As a whistleblower on the Wealth Tech case, I have exposed the conflict of interest of the regulated prosecutor model, along with the lack of accountability of the FCA in relation to a vast range of catastrophic failures in the context of the secondary objective and drive to promote greater risk taking by retail investors. Alongside this, with my associates, I have been investigating corruption in social services and the family court regarding the trade of vulnerable persons with private equity owned agencies by the growth in long-term care orders. Our research has traced this into the financial system and the wider promotion of private assets. In addition to Rachel Hudson and South Tyneside Council, our research is widespread and has uncovered troubling trends of the emotional sterilisation of children, along with the breaking of family bonds to facilitate the desired long-term cash generation desired by private equity. In regards to my own case, and in particular the fate of my younger daughter, Rachel Hudson has been challenged on aspects pertaining to racism and the falsification of evidence. This includes acceptance of an unsigned statement by way of achieving best evidence that the witness claimed to have never seen. The witness, my older daughter, made the assertion in February 2025 at a meeting of her own request in a public place. This is in addition to the erasure of her Polish heritage by an obscene campaign of racism. In that, I'm referring to my younger daughter. The issues have been also put to South Tyneside Council. I've received threats from South Tyneside Council when standing up for the rightful heritage of my daughter, who is a Polish citizen. Metaphorically, I will fight until my last breath for the dignity of my daughter and her right to celebrate her Polish heritage. I emphasize metaphorically because we live in an era of censorship where they would try to use that as some bizarre justification that I was seeking to pursue violence, which throughout this channel I've denounced. My wife has been subject to bullying at care team meetings when standing up for the heritage of our daughter. This has left her traumatized. My wife and I have reported concerns of racism to Northumbria Police, and these have not been acknowledged. Further, I reported threats and coercion received from the FCA to the same outcome. Richard Middleditch of the FCA suggested I report my concerns to the police, but I must deduce that, owing to coordinated coercion, this was an intentional subterfuge. Collectively, these are blatant acts of discrimination. There is a further aspect to consider. During our family court case, I made 2 requests to Northumbria Police to investigate allegations made by my older daughter, the last of which was addressed to the previous Chief Constable. No reply was ever received. It must also be remembered that correspondence was exchanged between the legal teams, Northumbria Police and South Tyneside Council, with the former advising the latter that the threshold of a criminal case could be compromised by the prejudice of evidence by the foster carer. This reveals a worrying conflict of interest by Northumbria Police, both in conducting this investigation and administering a separate submitted complaint. I do not consider it appropriate that Northumbria Police to handle either, given the obvious prejudice. During my interview, it was alleged that I had reacted poorly to an email my wife received from the family court 2 months after the last instance of vandalism. Further questions were framed around a video and a collection of emails which included other parties. The video discussed the ongoing noted coordinated coercion without naming Rachel Hudson. Furthermore, other parties connected with the emails would not have been relevant to alleged harassment of Rachel Hudson if that were the sole purpose of my arrest and seizure of devices. Collectively, the questions are clear confirmation that devices were seized by a false pretext of criminal damage. I believe the real reason was to research my associates and I have conducted on the FCA, Rachel Hudson, and the wider family court system, in addition to social services, be it South Tyneside Council and other local authorities. I have referenced such on several occasions. However, this research is stowed elsewhere and has been conducted by a team. Due to the noted conflicts of interest, Northumbria Police also have a clear incentive. I am also concerned that comments made by Deirdre Ryan of South Tyneside Council regarding my arrest suggest coordination between South Tyneside Council and Rachel Hudson. This is consistent actually with other evidence we've obtained. I would remind you that judges are not gods, and privileges given to social services do not stretch to the abuses I have noted. There are many other cases to feature, where parents have been terrorized into silence. Some such cases have resulted in tragedies. Regardless of bullying and police state terror, we will not be deterred. The seizure of our devices and the wider police state terror has greatly impacted my wife and I. It has placed my employment at risk and denied my wife the opportunity to edit photographs. In addition, the trauma prompted me to seek support from Crisis. I believe this constitutes a violation of our human rights, citing not exclusively Articles 3, 8, and 10. In this regard, I request the immediate return of all seized devices. As part of a substantial damages claim, I require a copy of the order authorizing my arrest, the search, and device seizures, body camera footage from all participating officers, my recorded interview, and footage of myself in the allocated cell. Due to the coordinated coercion and events noted, I regard my case and the WealthTech case at Southwark Crown Court, FCA versus Dance, as linked. I will therefore make the relevant parties aware of my noted concerns, as I've done prior. It should be noted that on different occasions, each noted institution, including your own constabulary, have been offered dialogue on friendly, respectful, non-escalatory terms. Alas, sadly, any such offer has been met with contempt and aggression. With this noted, my associates and I will not cease in our efforts to stand for the victims of financial scandals and the children, and will continue our disclosures. We will not accept racism and the deplorable for-profit trade in children. Due to concerns for my safety, following sustained physical and mental abuse by Northumbria Police, it will not be possible to attend the station in Newcastle in February. You will note that on exit from the station, I signed that I had been hurt in custody. Nobody has contacted me in this regard. Therefore, I have credible reasons for fearing for my safety in the absence of no guarantees. This is in addition to mendacious false pretext discussed above. Even if I had searched for her address on my devices, which I have not, this would not be anything beyond circumstances. This was another question posed, which unmasked the false pretext that Hudson had been harassed. False pretext. Hudson has not been harassed, most certainly not. She has been informed that we intend to hold her and others accountable for conduct which falls below that expected by the public. We suggest a more humble, conciliatory approach. Gary Stockdale, 11th January 2026. That's true. Essentially, judges are given privileges, social services are given privileges with the best of intentions to safeguard the safety of children. That is fine. Of course, we understand that, but it's a shop window, and behind it there are very, very serious abuses. We are convinced of that, and we will continue to show the impact and what these abuses are. Similarly with the FCA, we are convinced that the FCA are locked in this corrosive model that is prompting them to elevate the preservation of their own reputation over the victims of financial scandals, even when those victims have been victims, partly as a result of catastrophic errors by the FCA. Now, we do live in a period of authoritarianism. Sorry, it's early in the morning. With a veneer of democracy, essentially, at the moment. We're seeing that with Trump, we're seeing it with Britain, the EU, and many other countries as well. In many ways, it feels like the 1930s in some ways, where you've got this real nasty authoritarianism, and people are being viciously suppressed on pretexts. I mean, you've seen it at a much higher level than my own. Donald Trump and Jerome Powell, his latest one, sort of threatening with criminal charges. On this, obviously hasn't lowered interest rates at the desired pace, so they are coming up with a pretext to terrorise Powell. And you can see in the statement he gave, he was brave, but he looked very, very stressed, and I can certainly understand the position he's in, having been subject to state terror myself. That's it for now. Take care. Bye.